And away we go. It is the BCJ podcast brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. Make sure you're making your plans to join us at the Holy Grail, the last road game of the regular season next Saturday as the Bearcats take on Temple. One final run at the Holy Grail for this football season. Probably, obviously, do something as well for a bowl game. But as far as the regular season goes, this is the end of the road for the watch parties at the Holy Grail. So make sure you are joining us and having a good time watching the Bearcats work to put another victory on the board in between what are the two biggest games of the season, starting Friday night, 8 o'clock with East Carolina. If you can't make it, head to the Holy Grail, watch the game at the Grail. But if you can't make it, I would do that. All right, let's get this show rolling. We've got a lot to get to tonight, Dave. We've got tons of things to discuss.
Very excited, as always.
It's a very busy time of the year. You were very engaged Monday night. So I'm looking forward to talking some basketball with you here later in the show.
I have a sick child, so he was asleep, and I was able to watch the game in peace, and so it was nice. That part.
It was great. Absolutely outstanding. Let's get to Navy first, and put a lid on that. I said this Monday night. I'll say it again. I'm just look. The only thing the thing I'm most happy about being done with playing Navy is it is such a boring brand of football to watch, and it's insane because the games are over. Like, one of my biggest complaints with college football right now are 4-hour games. The games don't need to be 4 hours, but if that's what it takes to have 3-hour games, we're going to be at Nipper till midnight on Friday night.
Well, yeah,
fine with it.
The second half was especially grueling because the first half flowed fairly well, and so they had a whole lot of 3-minute commercial breaks that they didn't get to do in the first half that they had to then do in the second half. Because I think there was one sequence where I think it was when UC scored, kickoff commercial was just like, oh my God, this is so bad. But yeah, it's just one of those situations that if and like I said Sunday morning, like I caught myself in the moment probably being too critical of not getting stops, and then come to find out that they forced almost 50% 3-and-outs on real drives. It was just the ones that they didn't force 3-and-outs on ended up being 10 to 16 play drives. It wasn't a one first down and then a punt. So they weren't getting the ball back quickly. And so it just, they let them kind of do their thing, and then were much better in the red zone. And they had all their successful drives basically offensively in the first half. So the second half was not fun to watch, and it usually never is against Navy, and you just kind of hope that you don't have some busts. And they didn't, which was good.
There was really the only 3-and-out was the drive at the end.
Yeah, UC's only 3-and-out was the final drive, which I don't.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I don't even really count because they weren't trying to do anything.
Yeah.
So, and it's just such a one-off situation. Like, both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, you just don't see. You don't see a ton of defenses that pressure a ton and then bail their corners. Like you've seen UC in the past, they pressure and play
more aggressive.
Play a lot of press man because they want the guys to be covered when they're forcing you to throw quickly, where Navy is like, we're going to pressure and bail because we know our corners can't stick with anybody.
Yeah.
So
we don't have a time for Temple yet, right? Correct.
no, I can give you a little insight on that. So you're looking at 11 a.m. on ESPN2.
Woof.
Well, here's the thing: as being a road game, 11 a.m. on ESPN2, and then I think there's an afternoon window on ESPNU, and then a streaming window, which I guess would be whenever Temple wants it. Those are sounds like the 3 AAC options. So you're looking at UC Temple, UCF Navy, and ECU Houston are the 3 games.
Which one do you think it'll end up being?
If UC wins, they're very likely ranked. So I would guess that means 11 a.m. because it's ESPN2. It would be a standalone game. They did that this particular week, I think, because they're shoving 4 games in. I think there's a late nighter on ESPN2 as well, so they can get 4 games in. So I would think it's either the 11 or the afternoon on ESPNU. But Temple also brings literally nothing to the table, so it could be on it could be the streaming game no matter what. It's like if UCF wins, they're still ranked, and Navy, always brings some eyeballs.
They beat ECU.
Right, and then ECU and Houston. If ECU loses in Houston, if ECU loses, I'm guessing that's the streaming game.
Yeah, because Houston's pretty much
out. ECU would be out.
Yeah,
but not great. Not great.
Ridiculous.
Not great options either way. I personally, for me, I love it. Like, get the game in, you watch it, and it's over. You can do whatever you want the rest of your day.
I don't like it. That's the thing. I don't hate it when it's over. Right? Like, but getting down to the Grail, getting set up, get everything organized, and getting all that together for an 11 a.m. game just is a pain in the ass.
I think
getting people to come down to the Grail at 11 a.m.
I think the team would prefer it. You get into to Philly Friday night, Friday afternoon, early. Whatever. You wake up. You don't have to. The worst part about road games is killing time.
Yeah.
So you don't have to kill time, and you get the game over with, and you get back the same day, and that's that.
Oh, you'd be back by dinner.
Oh yeah.
11 a.m. kick.
Mm-hmm.
Be ready to be at the Grail by 6 o'clock. Maybe 5:30. But finishing up on Navy, yeah, it's so boring. Like, it's so, like, I found myself every time there was like a 4-yard run on first down being irrationally angry because I knew that meant they were going to get a first down.
Right.
Almost every time they were 2nd and 6 or greater, a first down was coming. And not irrationally angry because the Cincinnati defense gave up 4 yards, but irrationally angry because I knew that meant we were going to have to watch that set of downs, another set of downs, and we were looking at a minimum 4-minute Navy drive incoming. It drives me insane.
Yeah, I mean that's the way they operate, and I'm cool not having to deal with it anymore.
Yeah. Like the 4-man, the 4-4. Sometimes it was a 4-5-3. Is that 4-5-2?
That's 12 players.
4-5-2?
4-5-2.
I saw a couple times there were 4 down linemen and 5 linebackers on the field. And then, they were only putting 1 wide receiver out there.
Yeah.
So 1 corner and 1 safety, or 2 corners and no safeties, with Deshaun playing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
back.
with Xavier Arline, they were not going to throw the ball. Like
No.
his two runs were kind of, infuriating because they got pressure so quickly on those two plays. He didn't even have time to be like, maybe I should throw it.
Right.
He just like took off and made, and is super athletic and shifty and everything and made some guys miss. But it was like, if they had not been so, successful in their pass rush, he maybe stands back there another half second or second and then actually throws the ball. But they got back there so fast, he was just like, I'm out. He's like, I'm not even taking the chance.
Yeah. This is not for me.
So, it's frustrating that, their two most significant runs came on scrambles, but I think that's, it's just sometimes what happens.
Offensively, we tried to tell y'all that there wasn't going to be much of a run game.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we're going to be the whole rest of the year. Maybe outside Temple, but I would not expect much. Would love to be proven wrong, but I would expect this to be a sling it 70%, 65% of the time offense moving forward.
Yeah. ECU does a lot of the same stuff, though. They stack the box, they run blitz, they're very aggressive.
They're very aggressive, but we'll get into they're not successful with it.
Right. Well, they're not always successful with it. Thank you, Richard. What do I think about doing one Big 12 recap last week of the season versus all AAC recap shows? I don't know where the benefit in that is. I don't know yet that our audience is looking for Big 12 shows. We will have, trust me,
we'll have
plenty of time for Big 12.
Believe me, we don't want to talk about the AAC any more than we have to. It was
Unfortunately, right. Unfortunately, Dave, Aaron, the AAC got interesting down the stretch. Like, with the way things have played out, would have been even more interesting if Houston didn't.
For
if
sure.
the Houston defense had attended the SMU game, where they were in that weird spot where they could sneak in, and not be any good.
Yeah, their only loss in conference was to Tulane,
Right?
And they didn't play UC or UCF, so it's like if they end up having one loss, that junks up. And UC has one loss, and Tulane has, say, UC beats Tulane, and they have one loss, and UCF would be out then because Tulane would beat them. But there'd be those three teams. I have no idea how that tiebreaker works when one of the teams didn't play one of the teams, and don't really care to know. All I know is that the AAC put out their future schedules for football for the next few years, and looking at I saw a tweet from like ECU where they had all the logos up and whatever.
Oh.
Honestly, like I've never been happier to not be in this conference moving forward than I was looking at those logos.
How hard would it have been to keep doing this if UC got stuck, if they got left behind, if they were Memphis or SMU?
You could have you could have a home schedule. Now, UC wouldn't have happened to UC. They would have been paired up with like a Memphis or whatever. But you could have had a home schedule of like Memphis, Rice, UAB, and Charlotte as your 4 home games in conference.
Right. Yeah.
Wody. That is the definition of booty.
It's not good. It's not
Instead,
good.
we might have a home schedule next year of Oklahoma, Baylor,
TCU,
Oklahoma State, West Virginia, UCF,
Right.
like.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. The other thing, Richard, is I don't have a ton of Big 12 knowledge yet.
We're not really following it close enough to glean like super in-depth opinions on any of it.
Yeah. We'll get there. Dave's going to be studying Big 12 rosters the entire offseason.
Oh, buddy.
He's very excited about it.
And like in the Athlon preview, I might have to write some more words because the Power 5 conference teams get 2 pages.
More space.
Yeah, you get a whole page, so to speak. When you open the magazine, you get the left and the right side.
They going to pay you more for that?
I don't know. We'll see. Better. This stuff ain't free.
No. I mean, that's all I've really got on Navy. There you go. I know there were some people that wanted us to do more talk about the previous game in this space. They did. They called this the flagship show. Dave.
Oh, we're like the
flagship of the BCJ network.
The mothership.
Yeah,
we're the ESPN.
This is the rock. This is the rock that makes all the other stuff.
Orbit around it.
Orbit around the BCJ universe.
Well,
so there you go.
About twice as many of you people are watching the Orbit show on Sunday morning than you are now. So you better pick it up.
So going, Tonk, good to see you. I like this, Dave. So if they don't let you put your name in it, you should randomly hide your name in the Athlon Sports Preview. Could be like a treasure hunt.
Like, look,
capital letters, all like the start of
what if
each
I just
sentence.
what if I was just like they got a transfer from David Simone to see if they even like realized that that's not a real player?
I think the editors would catch that. But if you do like the first letter of the first sentence is D, the second letter is A, the second letter of the first letter of the second sentence is A.
It
would be a great challenge.
It would, and I usually send this to them after the third email that they've sent me asking me when they're going to get it. So that might hurt that procrastination.
It's a great idea, though.
I like it. I was just thinking maybe we could just like say that I was transferring in.
I think they would catch it somehow, some way.
There's only one way to find out.
And then they stop asking you to do it, which I don't think you would care one way or the other.
I don't know. They pay pretty well.
They do.
It's quite easy money.
It is. I guess we will go ahead and just get to the matter at hand.
We've got some questions already in the chat that I don't want to lose. Should we
Okay, go ahead.
Answer those real quick?
We can, absolutely.
I think we've touched on this a little bit in other pods, but why is Kiner only getting 1 to 2 carries? Is it simply poor pass pro? Is there anything else there? I just think he's third. Like Chuck has had a very good season and has deserved and won the majority of the carries. And then Ryan Montgomery is good in pass pro, is a good pass catcher. And when you're only running the ball 15-ish times a game, there's not a huge reason to give 3 guys carries.
Well, 5-5-5, that
makes no sense. How do your starters rushed for 700 and something yards, had a very, very good season, and you're gonna give them a third of your carries? Like no program, no football team really does that at all. So
I think Monty is definitely your best pass protector. Chuck is good at it. Kiner would be third in that.
But if Chuck's in on a pass play, I want him being an option to catch the ball.
Right. That's the next thing I was going to get to. Chuck and Monty are also your first and second options as pass catchers out of the backfield. And that's not to say Kiner can't do it. It's saying that he's third. I think people just get so lost in mental expectations. I like when Evan Prater committed, there was a mental expectation of what it looked like, a time frame to get Evan Prater on the field. And when Ben Bryant left, everybody assumed Evan Prater's time was this year. Then Ben came back, and it threw everything off. Corey Kiner transfers home. Everybody's very excited about Corey Kiner. I can tell you this. Everyone inside the program is still super excited to have Corey Kiner in red and black. It's just that he is sitting third right now. And
he's a redshirt freshman.
Right.
Like, if he wasn't Corey Kiner from Roger Bacon who went to LSU and was just Corey Kiner from wherever that came to UC right out of the gate and was a redshirt freshman, like there's a ton of redshirt freshmen on this team right now that are not playing, we wouldn't be having the same conversation. Now, I know his talent and what he's done and earned is a reason you have that conversation. But, like, he's still, like, he's behind two. In Chuck's case, I don't know what year, senior, junior, you want to call him. And in Ryan Montgomery's case, 5th year, I think. Like, they're just veteran dudes, and he'll get his shot at a even maybe more of an accelerated rate than most players do.
Right.
Like, there's not a lot of players in UC's program. You see it in the bigger programs with the 5 stars that come in and contribute right away and whatnot. But, like, there's not a ton of dudes in UC's program that have just stepped in as sophomores or redshirt sophomores or, like, main contributors, you know, high usage, high snap count people. It's not
right.
the way their program typically operates.
Right. It's year 5. It took 5 years for Ben Bryant to get the starting job at Cincinnati. He had to leave and come back. It took Charles McCullum and Ryan Montgomery are members of the 2018 recruiting class. Now, Monty redshirted because of his knee injury. But it took those guys a long time to get on the field. Was there anybody losing their mind when that? Well, yeah, a lot of people lost their mind that Ben wasn't on the field, but I digress.
No, I mean, I think
he is.
I understand excitement and like, dude, Corey Kiner is one of the best high school players I've ever seen. And
yeah.
when a kid goes to LSU, he didn't go to LSU because it was a charity offer, and he played as a freshman. So, like, yes,
and he's going to be very good as a Cincinnati Bearcat.
Right, I get it. Like, he transfers to UC, and you're like, all right, let's rock and roll with this dude. Like, but you're then also kind of saying, you're kind of also casting away the fact that this team has been loaded and really good for a while. We should not just expect that anybody is going to come in and bump the guys that are already here out of their starting spots. Like, they're damn good players too. And they're certainly not going to give up their carries or snaps, regardless of what position you are, without a fight. And, you know, you're a little bit behind the 8 ball when you come in as a transfer. He was banged up he didn't do anything in the spring. He was banged.
He was at LSU in the spring.
Didn't do anything at LSU in the spring because he was banged up. So he's not even, like, working for them. Then he comes here. He's getting acclimated. He gets banged up in the fall camp. Like, it's not you're just asking a lot of a guy that doesn't have the snaps, doesn't have the muscle memory in the UC offense. Like, Chuck and Monty, like, know the UC offense about as good as anybody on the roster right now. Like, who on the offense those probably knows the offense better than those two?
Ben,
maybe Lenny,
and Josh, and Lenny, yeah.
Not even Josh. They're older than Josh. I mean, they've been in
Josh
it longer.
2018. No, Josh was 18.
He was 18 too. Yeah. So,
like, that's the bulk of this roster right now. The meat of this roster right now is that 2018 class. Here's my hot take, Dave.
What's your hot take, Chad?
I'm out on hometown heroes on offense. They're great on defense. Defense is nameless. Like, you know, the defensive guys have worked out fine. The offensive guys, maybe I'll take the linemen. Quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, maybe wide receivers, whatever. Quarterbacks and running backs, I'm out on hometown heroes. I'm over it. People are booing Ben Bryant before the game starts.
I mean, I don't really understand booing college athletes in general, regardless of the circumstance. I'm much more inclined to boo the coaches because they're the ones in charge and they're the ones that are supposed to be putting players in the best position to succeed. It's not always on the players. Like, you hear it a lot in the NFL, especially like, well, this guy busted out, you know, he just didn't have it. And it's like, well, what kind of, like, isn't it the coach's responsibility to figure out what guys do well and use their abilities and then coach up their deficiencies? So it's just not something that I can ever get behind because it's not something I've ever done.
Right.
So I understand fan frustration. Like, that's fine. Like, you can be frustrated. You can, I don't know. Like, it's just weird to me. Like, that you're going to have like legit vitriol for, just like a 21, 22-year-old college player.
Here's a good question. Do I think Mick was out on hometown heroes after the pressure he saw Yancey went through? Outside of Kevin Johnson, did he target any Cincy kid? Was he out on them? No. Was he much more aware of the difficulty of what it takes to handle that type? And Yancey was a bit of a different animal because there were places that had Yancey as a 5-star. And there's additional weight. Like Evan Prater, like Corey Kiner, who high 4 stars, there's additional weight. And maybe that's the thing more than it is. Like, ironically, the kids that have had the most success coming to UC from Cincinnati high schools have been the lowest rated kids.
Yeah.
Who are the 2 highest rated players or highest graded players in all of Division I FCS football right now?
Ivan Pace and Dante Corleone, I think, are pretty highly up there for defensive guys.
Dante Corleone, I'm talking defense. Dante Corleone was the lowest rated position player in his class. Ivan Pace was, I believe, either a low 3 or a high 2-star that went to Miami, had to prove it at Miami for 3 years before coming back home. They don't face that kind of pressure. That pressure that grows as an Evan Prater, as a Corey Kiner become stars in high school that everybody in town knows about, and then it carries to UC. And we saw it with Yancey, and some of that, let's be honest, was Yancey's doing. We saw it with Jaron. And I would consider Jaron a Cincinnati kid, wouldn't you?
Oh, for sure. Wilmington's not far away.
Right. And Jaron came down and played against Moeller and Covcath, and he was a Cincinnati kid for all intents and purposes. And he went through a lot of that scrutiny. I think just being a highly rated local makes it difficult not only for the kid, but for the coaches. Because the expectations are that those kids are immediately going to come in and be great because they're from here and they came to UC. Because of the microwave nature of our society, it creates a lot of toxicity. That's unfortunate because, like we talked about a ton in this quarterback thing, because we have to talk about Ben winning the job, people take that as we're talking down on Evan. And that's not the case. Because we're talking about Corey being 3rd on the running back depth chart, that were talking bad about Corey.
If you have a good roster, someone is going to be third.
Right.
Like, that doesn't mean that they're bad or they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like, we want a roster like that. You don't want a roster where there's already a ton of good players on it, and then it's not this like just automatic shoo-in that every kid that transfers into the program is like, well, he's a starter because the rest of our roster sucks so bad.
Right.
We haven't even seen if he knows our offense, but he's got to start because he's by far the best player we have.
Steven Chenault says, I think some people on this podcast network thought JQ might be starting by this point of the season, and JQ was here for spring practices. Also, hi, JQ. Guess what happened, Steven? Exactly what we're talking about. JQ challenged Jaquan Shepard for that starting spot. They went head-to-head, and Jaquan Shepard elevated his level of play. Iron sharpened iron, right? And Jaquan Shepard won the job. Do you hear anybody booing Jaquan Shepard when he takes the field?
No, I don't.
Do you hear anybody, do you hear the stands blow up when JQ comes in to get some snacks?
No.
Do the stands erupt when 6 comes on the field?
Do they even notice?
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm getting at.
I guess the overarching theme to kind of this whole thing that I have never really understood, and coaches are never without fault. You don't make 100% great decisions.
Of course not.
We have no idea. If Evan was playing or if Corey was playing, I can't sit here and tell you that the offense wouldn't be humming at an efficiency that it's nowhere near where we are now. I have no idea. But I just always find it interesting that when a coach like Luke, who has been a pretty strong percentage as a plus positive decision maker. I don't think you end up winning like 50 out of your last 58 games because you're starting the wrong players or you're making the wrong decisions on fourth down or things like that. But yet we have people, a segment, maybe it's a small vocal segment, but we have a segment nonetheless that basically says, I don't think he's making the right decision. Does he not? He hasn't built up some form of equity to based on the fact that we've been to the playoff and won the conference 2 years in a row and won double digit, on the verge of a fifth straight double digit win season. But we're gonna basically say you're making the wrong decision on who is the starting quarterback is, or how many carries a running back gets, or playing this particular type of defense. Why don't we see more formation? I don't know, man. The 3-man has worked. They're 50-8 over their last 58 games. I think the 3-man front has worked. There's not. I don't think there's very many games where I can look back and be like, they absolutely would have won that game if they would have played 70% 4-man front.
Right. Because they're winning 80% of their games playing the 3-man front since 2019 when they switched to it against UCF. What have they lost since then? Twice to Memphis, once to Georgia, once to Alabama, and twice this year. That's 6 games since 2019 they've lost playing the 3-man front.
Yeah, so I just whether it's the booing of the players, which I don't get, or the openly
opining,
questioning, I get it. We all question plays. I questioned what the hell was going on at the end of the first half last week.
We all did.
But I'm not stumping and being he is wrong about this. And
you're not saying before a snap was even played in the Navy game, someone on the message board said, if Prater doesn't play in these weather conditions, Luke and Gino have questions to answer.
Well, for one, there were no weather conditions, so
right.
And two, I would ask, did that person come back after the game and say, "Wow, Ben played, really quite well"?
I didn't see that. If he did, he knows who he is. I'm sure he's listening. I'm just giving him a hard time, but
Because if you're gonna cut it one way, you got to cut it the other.
exactly.
Like
Um,
I've been on this podcast, this one Sunday morning, whatever, for several weeks, saying like I would have no issue if they played Evan more. I don't think that's a slight on Ben. I think the offensive inefficiencies that they have faced would be reason to figure out a way to incorporate him more. But that's not. But then when Ben plays really well, I have to go also say I can see why they didn't play him against Navy, because Ben played pretty darn well, and there was really no reason to.
You were playing one of the worst pass defenses in the country, and one of the best run defenses in the country. Wouldn't have playing Evan in that game played to Navy's strengths?
Well, now you're talking football, and we don't.
Hey, Josh, I agree. Hey, I get what you're saying, but if Jordan Marshall from Moeller wants to come to UC, I'm here for it. Me too.
Well, yeah.
Me too.
We're not saying that you don't take great
I'm
players.
being facetious with the whole hometown hero thing. I'm not being serious with that. I'm having some fun with it.
But we have leaned into it. They have leaned into it. That's the thing. But there's also
there are downsides to recruiting
kids. I don't even know if I would call them downsides. There's just other elements.
Yeah, downsides probably isn't the right word.
There's other elements. Like if a kid comes here from, I'll just use Isaiah Cox, for example. Comes here from just outside Knoxville, Tennessee. Like you don't have the same. It's not the same type of recruitment.
Right. As
a really, whether it's a really good, a really good play. He was a really good player at Alcoa. The Cincinnati kids are some of them, most of them, all of them are really good players, but like there's just different elements, man. And it's not bad elements. It's not like we're saying there's like hangers on, like chirping at the coaches and stuff, but like it's got to be tough for the kids, man. You go to you're from here, you're Evan Prater, you're from here, you're a state champion, you're a Mr. Football, and your boys and whoever are going to have your back, and they're going to tell you, because I would do the same thing if it was one of my friends, like you're young, he understands, but it's like there's just other aspects of recruiting kids from your town, and here's the other thing, not a lot of other colleges have to deal with this, because not a lot of other colleges
they're in college towns
or legitimately in places that have legitimate high level talent.
Right. Like I do the high school football show on 1530 and 1360. Right. And that show is booked through the state championship every year for a reason. What is that reason? Because Cincinnati teams play for state championships every year. Right. Like if most of the teams in this area saw their season end in the regional finals, or we're in the regional semifinals, and next week was basically the end of high school football in Cincinnati. You know what I wouldn't be doing for the next 3 weeks? 2 hours of a high school football show on Friday nights. Because the sponsors wouldn't pay for it. Right? There's great high school football here, which means there's going to be a bunch of great high school football players here. And I get that. But that doesn't automatically entitle them to a quicker path than everybody else on this roster. Because guess what, Dave? For the most part, everybody on this roster is fighting the same things that redshirt sophomore Evan Prater and redshirt freshman Corey Kiner are fighting, right?
Right.
Who are the redshirt sophomores that are kicking ass and taking names on this roster?
I don't know. You tell me. I don't think there's a ton.
So what's that? 2020 would be the redshirt sophomores.
I mean, just look at the offense.
Evan Prater, number one rated recruit in that class. Jaheim Thomas, who is just now in year 3, finding his way. Jaden Thompson. The last 3 weeks have seen him break out.
Like
Right?
the best player in the 2020
In that class is Mason Fletcher.
Mason Fletcher.
Yeah. Look, you know the funny part? I argued tooth and nail with 24/7 that Mason Fletcher should have been like an 88, 89, 87, 88 level recruit based on his background, based on his family, like what his family had accomplished in Australian rules football in relation to all the Australian kids that were coming over and dominating the punting position. And I was told, like, we can give him like an 81, and that's the best we can do. And I was like, well, you're gonna look stupid. You're gonna look bad. Because that kid should be at least in the middle of the class. Let's keep going. Jaden Thompson just now getting going. Sammy Anderson just now getting going. De'Aaron McDonald is gone. Justin Watley just now getting going. Chris Scott just now getting going. Ethan Wright back at running back right now. I don't know if many people have noticed that, but he's back on the offensive side of the ball. Tyler Scott. Oh, boy, we whiffed on that one. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the 11th rated player in that class, Tyler Scott. Gavin Gerhardt, starting at center this year. Sterling Miles gone. Peyton Singletary behind Josh and Lenny. Deshaun Pace, like the 15th rated player in that class.
That one always, like, I still remember. I never understood that. Like,
yeah,
I was like, you guys are missing so bad on him.
John Williams, backup tackle. Todd Bumpus, backup corner. Jake Renfro, like the 20th rated player in that class. And then Dominique Perry, Norman Love didn't make it, unfortunately, because of an injury. And yeah, that's about it.
No, it's just like
the transfers were Jordan Jones, that didn't work out. Michael Young, solid, and then some guy named Jerome Ford who turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah,
that's your 2020 class.
No, I think you just like we're to the point now, like, and I think sometimes this gets overlooked a little bit. Is we talk a lot about the recruiting aspect of it.
Yeah.
But they are just as good, if not better, at the development part.
Correct.
So they're developing these kids into, just look at the draft class last year. I mean, those guys were all developed into draftable players who, for the most part, are having very, very successful rookie years. Right. So when a 4-star transfers in or is recruited, like the evidence is there that they're developing the players that they recruit, and that the recruiting rankings don't really matter because they're developing them into all really good to pretty good players. So why would we think that someone is just going to come right in and just take over a position at this point, even after the departures from last year? Like those guys that were still in the roster waiting their turn for a Sauce Gardner, for a Brian Cook, whoever, to Myjai Sanders to leave, they're really good too. So it's, we probably belabored the point a little bit, but I just think there's some patience in understanding when you are a really good program that there's good depth. It's harder for guys to crack that 2 deep. It's harder for guys to get significant snaps.
And that's not an indictment on the talent of Evan Prater or the talent of Corey Kiner or the coaching staff just totally fucking up using the wrong guys.
It's not an indictment at all. It's a
I
positive.
know, but I think that needs to be said. It's a positive. You're right. This is a really talented roster.
So,
I didn't mean to take us in that direction, but I had to get to it.
Way to go.
Look, this is the flagship. This is the flagship.
Thanks for nothing.
This is the flagship operation.
Oh, UCF superfan, I am not angry at all. My kid has been asleep since like 5 o'clock. This is about as nice of a night as I get anymore.
My neighbors, just because we have been going through so much with Kelly, they came over about 2 weeks ago, and they gave us gift cards to Texas Roadhouse. So tonight we hit up Texas Roadhouse. I had a steak, had some chili, a baked potato.
Buddy.
I couldn't be in a better mood.
That's right.
I couldn't possibly be in a better mood. Outside of that dipshit on Twitter that I'd had to dox and he deleted his account. Is what it is. Come at the king, you best not miss. Natalie, I really wish I could hear the word family.
Ridiculous comment, by the way.
I know. That's why I said it. That's the whole point. I really wish I could hear the word family without thinking of Brian Kelly.
I really wish Brian Kelly would just be an awesome person and lean into it and have gone up to the podium after they beat Alabama and be like,
and just done straight Cajun draw.
What a night for LSU and my family. Like, why didn't he, like that would they already love, I mean, they're already like very happy with him obviously right now, but like they would have just finally been like, all right, this guy isn't so bad. Like
it would have been acknowledging the joke.
Yes,
right?
Of course. That he sounded absolutely ridiculous, whether he did it intentionally or not.
I love it here down on the bayou. Or maybe like if he dropped into a Coach O, go Tigers.
Oh,
I love it down here.
That would be even more ridiculous than his family comment.
You said, yeah, we're about to end up with 3 freaking SEC teams in the playoff. It's never going to happen.
No, it's not happening.
But I was
this year.
No. When we get to 12, there might be 4.
Oh,
5. First and second in each division is getting in with 12. I'm telling you right now.
I mean, what do they have right now? You got Georgia 1, Tennessee at 5.
Bama at 9.
Bama's at 9. Ole Miss is 11. Now Bama and Ole Miss play each other this week. LSU's in there, so yeah, there'd be 5 in the top 11 right now.
LSU's 7, yeah.
But LSU probably plays Georgia in the play. I mean, they're still going to get 4 on most years,
right?
So, but hey,
first and second in each division is going.
That's all right. Those teams are damn good.
Yeah, they are. No argument there. All right, now we can get to UCF or to ECU. Sorry, we already played UCF, unfortunately. ECU. I'm going to make my opening statement on ECU.
I think we're going to be in agreement if it's something that I heard you say somewhere earlier.
Holden Ahlers is a good quarterback. Holden Ahlers, he's not a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback.
He's fine.
Like and good. What do good quarterbacks do? Good quarterbacks have really high highs and really low lows, right? That's a good quarterback. In terms of when you look at their numbers, a good quarterback is not somebody that's always good. It's not somebody that's always
fine, and he's having a good year.
You know why he's having a good year?
Why?
Keaton Mitchell's a fucking dude.
Keaton Mitchell is a dude.
Like an NFL, I think, maybe I'm crazy, but when I've watched ECU, which hasn't been a ton, but I've watched parts of like 5 ECU games. That is where my eyes go. Because that guy looks different. That guy looks like he'll be hanging around. Maybe he won't be a star. I'm not saying he's going to be like an NFL stud running back. That guy's going to play in the NFL, I think, for a while.
I mean, especially running back in the NFL. I mean, these guys get chewed up, thrown out, pop up out of nowhere.
Right. But I've been pretty good on like my eye for when running backs look different to me, when they look like something that most college running backs don't look like. Keaton Mitchell looks like a guy that's going to be making 7-figure checks for a while.
I mean, I definitely think he is the key to the game and just their running game in general. I like their other running back who's a freshman. I mean, he gets about 5 to 7.
The one that's
carry.
hurt?
No, Marlon Gunn
Okay.
is that
Gotcha.
that was Harris or whatever. But no, Keaton Mitchell in conference, 5.1 yards a carry, 5 touchdowns. They sprinkled the BYU game in there 2 weeks ago, but last 3 games, 430 yards, 6.5 yards a carry, 6 touchdowns. Like, I think their offense runs off him. Like, they're not super like. They're not super like. I think their fans kind of have some of the same gripes with their offense as our fans have with ours. Like, at least from my standpoint, like, it's not super creative. It's not. You're not going to get looks like a UCF is going to give you. It's pretty much, here's what we're going to do. It's kind of right in front of you, and we see how you handle it. And UC has been susceptible against the run at times.
More so when there's a mobile quarterback.
For sure. But,
which is not going to be in play here. But I think this is the best back they've faced all season.
Rocket Sanders is better than him. He might set the SEC rushing record this year.
Okay. I'm giving you my opinion. Your opinion is different.
No, I agree. I mean, he's probably the best back. I think he's definitely the best back in the conference.
Well, he's the leading rusher of the
conference. But that doesn't. I mean,
I know.
I think RJ Harvey's a really good back, and he's not even UCF.
I do too.
Getting UCS carries. So,
yeah.
But no, I mean, I think they have an advantage in the middle. Their center is 6'4", but he's only like 288. So, what can we do up the middle? Their center guard is going to be under a lot of duress in this game, just from the nature of what UC does.
Yeah.
He seems to be really good, especially against UCF. And, it was kind of a bone of contention I had with our rushing attack in that game was like, their ends crashed hard, and he did a really good job of bouncing stuff to the outside. With our defensive alignment, is that harder? Are we, because
it's got to be better contained.
Because we don't necessarily have like these prototypical edge rushers, is a Jabari and a Watley, like, they're not going to crash.
Phillips.
And Phillips just not gonna kind of do the whole pin your ears back and just go type of thing. They're more, power guys, so they're, I don't know, maybe a little bit more capable of stopping that. But I tried to dig into them a little bit because they're obviously playing well, and their field goal kicking has been atrocious, and has pretty much cost them 2 games. Like, they could very easily be 8-1. They're 6-3, so I guess they could be 8-1. The opening game against NC State, they lost by a point and missed at least 1 extra point and 1 very short field goal. And then they did the same thing against Navy, missed several short kicks. So they're playing very well, but I wanted to dig in a little bit and find out how well is well, and how much is that comparable to UC and their opponents and whatnot. I did find it interesting. They've only played 2 road games.
Yeah, that's weird for this freaking late in the season. Like, felt like UC only played 2 home games before last Saturday.
They only have 4 total. They were able to get that 3 of their non-conference games at home. So they only had 4 road games total. And so they've played Tulane, which they lost 24-9, and they beat BYU 2 weeks ago before their bye.
Yeah.
27-24. But I mean, BYU is a very hard place to play, but that team is kind of a dumpster fire right now. They've lost 4 out of 5. They got blown out at home by Arkansas. They got kind of blown out by someone else that I can't think of off the top of my head. So they're certainly not playing to the level that they have been in the last couple of years. And, you kind of dig into their numbers a little bit, and I thought it was interesting. Like, I use SP Plus a lot. And I wanted to go back and see like how much improvement have they made in SP Plus from when they were 3-3 to now when they're 6-3. And I know a lot of that has to do with like the teams around you. You know, how are they doing? Do you move up or down based on you, but also based on like how well or poorly the other teams do.
Right.
So overall, since week 7 to week 10, they've moved up 9 spots in the overall. Their offense has only moved up 2 spots. Their defense has moved up 10. So they're kind of moving up with better defensive play. Over, and I'm trying to figure out if the UCF game was kind of a pure outlier or if it was.
It was, from what I saw, it was just a dominant second half.
Like
they had one of those halves. That was a close game into the third quarter.
I mean, Holton Hiller's completed 85% of his passes.
Right. That's the second half. They just flat out dominated. They put UCF in a position that UCF doesn't want to be in with Plumlee having to throw the ball. Like they got up 2 scores and they kept their foot on the gas. Ehlers was hot. Like it was a perfect, kind of a perfect performance from UCF's offense or ECU's offense. Would you disagree?
Yeah. No, and that's the thing is like he's had 2 games this year over 80% passing.
Yes.
And 4 games under 65%.
Which still, as long as you're above 60, I think you're okay. If 60 is your low, as long as you're not dipping into like 52%.
Right.
48%. Like I think if you're still at 60, you're doing what your offense is asking of you. And then obviously on your good days, you're going to be at 70 plus. On your down days, you're going to be at 60 to 65. Is that fair?
For sure. But like a lot of quarterbacks have come into UC games in that range and then barely completed 50% of their passes.
Right.
So this is not a case where you're a 70% passer because every game you're between like 67 and 73%.
Right.
He's a 70% passer because he's got 2 outliers of 80-something% and then 1 game in the 70s and then 4 games between 60 and 65.
Right. I get what you're saying completely.
And he's just like the splits bear it out. Like he's 40% for 271 yards, a touchdown, 4 interceptions, and 6 sacks in his 2 games at Nippert.
He has not been good at Nippert Stadium.
They've trailed 77-10 at halftime of those 2 games.
The Cincinnati, that was those were both Marcus Freeman defenses.
Yeah.
And they kicked his ass. Like, there's no other way to put it. Those were both Marcus Freeman defenses, and they both absolutely kicked his ass. Right. That's not to say that they won't this Friday night. I'm just providing a little context.
No, for sure. And this defense is more aggressive, but they've been pretty good at, they've only allowed 11 sacks.
Yeah.
Which is 23rd nationally. Third down offense is good, 11th, 50%. They have nice. I mean, Isaiah Winstead is a Toledo transfer. He's having a really nice year at receiver, 64 for 871 and 3 touchdowns. CJ Johnson, they moved him into the slot.
That's really been a great move for them.
Really helped them out there. He's got 44 for 702 and 8. They got a nice tight end in Ryan Jones. Our fans will remember he had a real nice game last year. They got him going early, 35 for 362 and 4. The offense is good, but it is not like it's not.
Tulane dominated them.
Yeah, I mean it's not this like. I think they're playing really good, and that's the weird part. Is like, okay, it's really weird to me that you have your bye all the way in week 9. Like that seems crazy late. And I know you want to get guys healthy, and you certainly need just a mental break and an off your feet break. But like, does the bye actually hurt them because they were playing so good coming into this week?
Here's the other thing that I think is interesting, Dave. Does the bye really help you against UC? Because it's not like offense or defense, UC is doing anything all that exotic.
No, I think it helps you just from a standpoint of like.
No, I agree. But I'm talking in terms of game planning.
No, I mean, they know what the game plan's going to be.
Right, that's what I'm saying. There's no schematic advantage gained by having an off week.
No, and that's why I wonder, like, yes, of course it helps you from the sense of, like, guys that maybe wouldn't have practiced on a Wednesday are definitely now probably, but, like, where's the balance of, yes, that's important, but we're playing really good. We'd like to just keep it rolling.
Kenny A6. I don't think I've seen you before. Welcome to the channel. Hopefully he doesn't throw the dink and dunk passes like he did against UCF. He is going to throw those passes.
Well, he does. They do two things. They dink and dunk, but then they also just basically throw back shoulder after back shoulder in single coverage and try to get you to either commit pass interference, which we saw the one game when Kobe couldn't stop committing pass interference, when CJ Johnson had like 200 and something yards. Yeah. So they do the short, quick stuff, but then they basically just run verts and get it out quick and just try to throw it up in those one-on-one situations. So, and UC plays man. So I don't know if, I don't think we're going to see like a bunch more zone or anything. But
I saw some. I think ECU runs a lot of five wide.
Oh yeah, they do.
I saw some interesting formations this week.
Yeah, they run five with, basically like, get it out quick, find the mismatch at the line, get it out. But
look, I'm just telling you, if you see some weird shit this week, don't be surprised in terms of matching up with what ECU has on the field.
Yeah. Offensively, they're not great in the red zone. They've gotten there a ton, 42 trips.
That's a lot.
Which is top 25 in the country, but they only have 25 touchdowns on those trips, and they have 7 empty trips. Like, UC's only been in the red zone 30 times, but they've got 27 conversions. Just too many of them there's 18 touchdowns and 9 field goals.
Yeah. And Ryan Coe is better than their kicker.
Yes, definitely. I think he's better than either kicker. I'm not sure which one is using, but yeah. So like, SP plus UC's 22nd. They are 57th.
Wait a second. Hold on. I love this.
What?
ECU's punter is number 12, same as Ayler's. So some fuckery could be afoot. I love that. I love that. Because your punter, as long as your starting quarterback is not like involved in special teams at all, I love putting the same number as your quarterback back there to punt. I just seeing that, I would do that. I would do that every time. I would put of course, Mason Fletcher doesn't look anything like anyone. There's no one on a football field that looks like Mason Fletcher.
Yeah, you can't
You're
really
not fooling anybody.
You're not fooling anybody with putting the new quarterback, a different number 31 back there. They're like, yeah, that's not the 6'7" long-haired punter. Something's going on.
But I love it. I love it. Great comment, Lambig.
That's awesome. UC's 31st in FPI, ECU's 51st, Sager in the UC's 38th, ECU's 54th, a little bit closer there. But, I think they're, this is like, we'll get to defense, but like, this is like a remember me type game. Like, there's been all this chatter. They lost to UCF.
Did you see the I think their defensive coordinator made a comment in their weekly media deal that like, the players have been talking about UC since the spring and all the way through the summer, and like the Cincinnati game. where they're claiming they're coming to Nippert like on a mission
to end the streak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, get in line.
Yeah, I mean, like who hasn't been talking about that in their meetings and
right?
Yeah,
we're gonna get Cincinnati before they get out of here.
But no, I think there's there's a lot of Tulane talk, and they play UCF this week, and somehow UC's kind of become the little bit of the forgotten team, and I wonder if this is just maybe like a hey, remember me type game.
Yeah. Let's get the defense, because I think this is the most interesting.
Pass defense stinks.
Yeah. They are very aggressive. They blitz a lot. They put a lot of guys in the box. It was effective against John Rice Plumlee when they played UCF.
Against John Rice Plumlee because he legitimately just threw the ball directly to ECU players.
4 times, right? Like, well, he had three interceptions.
One didn't count. It was at the very end of the game. Like, I don't count that. It was at the very end of the game. The game was already over. He's just trying to make a play. But yes, like it was effective. But they do that, but yet their stop rate is 73rd nationally.
Not great.
Yeah, I mean they're 64th. So how you're being aggressive, but you're not really like making a bunch of plays that would register as stop rate type plays at or behind the line. So is that really helping you?
There are yards to be gained against this ECU defense.
For sure. Again, another team that is good against the run. I mean, yards per carry, they're 29th, 3.55 yards per carry, which shows you then how bad they are against the pass, because yards per play, they're 97th at 5.92 yards per play. So you're 2.5 yards per play worse overall than you are against the run.
That says you give up a lot of yards in the air against a team that wants to throw the ball.
Opponent QB rating 116th, yards per attempt 122nd, 8.7. They've 43rd in sacks, just under 2.5 a game, 58th in tackles for loss. So better than average, but not wildly. Red zone, they're 10th. 9 times they've allowed no points. Third down, they're 80th, so that's not like anything hot. That's they're giving up a higher percentage on the season than UC is converting. They're giving up 40%. UC's, I think, right around, maybe a little bit better the last few weeks, but not anything great. 15 passing touchdowns allowed, 8 interceptions, obviously 3 of them against UCF, whatever, same thing. No, I think UC can have success offensively. You're going to get more drives than last week. If the passing game resembles last week, there's going to be plays to be made.
Yep.
You just want to see the run game be, even though you're probably going to have a similar percentage that you've seen, just want to see the efficiency of it be a little bit better. And Chuck, I thought, was efficient. He had 60
he didn't have a bad game against
he had 60 yards with the long of 18. Like, he was fine. They just didn't run it very much. But I think it's a similar similar game plan to last week offensively. Like, come out throwing, work the quick stuff, get in a rhythm, see if that loosens them up a little bit for running the ball, take advantage of Tyler Scott and what he does, and kind of go from there. It is interesting. This was a note I had for their offense, because I wanted to just see like the defenses that they were playing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Tulsa, they lost. Tulsa is 115th in yards per play allowed.
Wait, they lost to Tulsa?
No, I mean Tulane.
Tulane, okay. I was like, that doesn't sound right, Dave.
No, Tulane.
Tulsa, Tulane, same fucking thing. I get it. Trust me, I get
They
it.
lost to Tulane.
Nobody gets it more than me. I get it.
Scored 9 points on the road against a team that is playing well. 15th in yards per play allowed. UC is still like a top 10 yards per play allowed team.
Right.
So the other defenses that they played, this is where I was kind of wondering if like the UCF game was an anomaly. UCF is 49th in yards per play allowed. So they top 50 and they beat them handily. Their other wins since conference play started. They beat Memphis in overtime. Memphis is 81st in yards per play. And then BYU, Navy, and USF are all 100 or worse in yards per play. And now they're playing a team that's like 4th or 5th, I think, in yards per play allowed on the road. So, this is kind of what we talked about earlier. Like, regardless of what the passer has been outside of Mikey Keene, who then was absolutely incredible against Memphis. Like anybody that
turns out Mikey Keene can pass, which is why Gus Malzahn didn't want him running his offense.
Right.
But Gus Malzahn wants a running back playing quarterback.
Pretty
Mikey
much
Keene, he was like, you know what, Dave? UCF would probably be in control of this whole thing if they just played Mikey Keene from the start of the year, not John Rice Plumlee.
Maybe. I don't know. It's tough.
They have a coach that doesn't like to pass.
Tough to say. But you just every quarterback that they've basically gone against.
Hot takery.
No, I love it. Every quarterback they've gone against has seen like a significant drop in their play outside of what they've done the rest of the season, at least in conference.
Yeah. I don't know. I respect the fact that Houston has built a good program. He has built them up to where this is kind of like their go time, right? Like you're in the last year of Ehlers, like
yeah, they were probably like UC graduated all these dudes to the NFL. They certainly didn't see Tulane coming off of a 2-10 season, losing both their offensive and defensive coordinators, and now being 9-1. So, or 8-1, whatever their record is. But yeah, so they probably looked at this as like we've got three non-conference games at home. We got UCF at home. Like this could be a year where everything kind of comes together, and
still they're not in a position to win the conference. They're just in a position to play spoiler.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if they won out,
everybody would have to have two, or at least they would have to be.
Yeah, but I mean, like if they won
the
out,
last one with two left standing.
Yeah, if they won out, if UCF beat Tulane and then UC beat Tulane, and they'd have a tiebreaker over. Like, there's still, I think there's ways, but it's not just up to them.
Right. That's got to be disappointing in some way, shape, or form for them, considering what they thought this year could be.
Yeah, I would think so.
I'm just saying.
I mean, who's their other conference loss to besides Navy?
Tulane.
That's right.
Yeah, they've lost to Navy and Tulane.
Yeah.
This could be if they didn't lose for whatever reason they didn't shit the bed and lose to Navy. Like this could be for the spot alongside Tulane in the conference championship.
Yeah, they'd definitely be in the driver's seat.
Don't lose to Navy.
Yeah, and I don't see them winning Friday night, but
I don't either. Unless Keaton Mitchell goes wild. I think that's, if we're here next week talking about an ECU win, I think that's really the only way it happens, is that Keaton Mitchell is just the best player on the field.
I think that, and I think, if UC's offense gets super inconsistent and doesn't, but their pass defense is see, that's the thing, is like their pass defense almost doesn't allow them not to hit some big plays unless it just does something that it hasn't done all year.
All year, yeah. At Nippert. And
that's the thing, man. Like, the streak is.
Are you worried about the weather?
No. What's there to worry about the weather?
Supposed to get cold.
Okay, great.
And we'll see. There's a hurricane blowing through that day.
I thought it was supposed to stop raining at like 4:00.
I mean, that's what it says right now. It also said at this point in time last week that it was going to rain all goddamn day. And guess what?
Sorry.
Did it rain Saturday at all?
No.
The forecast was for like 90% rain going into Saturday. High winds, 90% rain. I think I felt like 6 drops of rain on me throughout that game.
Yeah.
And the high winds were done by kickoff. But it's supposed to get cold. Friday.
UC's defense has just been too consistent against, offenses like this.
Whether they don't have a running quarterback that can.
Whether it was Tulsa, whether it was SMU, like that want to do this type of thing.
I just don't think those teams had Keaton Mitchell.
No, absolutely not. Nothing even in the same realm.
I'm giving you my concern.
No, I would be concerned. I'm
concerned
too.
Segment. I'm giving you my concern at the end of the segment.
I agree with you.
I think Keaton Mitchell is a fucking dude.
I agree with you. He's like, what he does is much more, to me, like a deciding factor.
Yeah.
But,
and then the other thing is, if he gets going, that allows Ehlers to get going a little bit.
Yeah, then you just he just starts hitting all that little stuff, and because yeah. So, gotta get back to getting pressure on a more stationary quarterback. Getting into the longer downs and distance. Obviously, that didn't really happen against UCF. It didn't really happen last week because of the nature of Navy. So can we get back to that element of it? And got to get some some interceptions, some turnovers, some big plays, whether it's defensively or special teams. Those have kind of been, we had a lot at the beginning of the year, especially defensively, but haven't had many of late.
Right.
So,
what are you going with? Give me your score.
Ryan Coe's been money. And UC still is struggling in the red zone. ECU is good in the red zone, so I think we're definitely looking at like a, I wouldn't be surprised if we were looking at like a 2-3 field goal game. So I think I'm gonna go 38. 38-27.
I think it's going to be a touchdown game. I don't know why. I think 35-24 sounds about right to me. Is ECU a highly penalized team, Dave?
I did not look that up. I can very quickly if you'd like.
Okay. Kenny A6, who is new, would like.
Comparatively speaking to UC, I'm going to probably say no.
Right. Although only 6. Navy.
They're the polar opposite of UC.
They don't get penalized at all.
They're the second. Well, here, penalties a game. They're third nationally at 3.9. 29.4 yards per game.
Okay.
UC is 128th at 8.7 penalties per game.
I need a timeout.
What's your timeout?
I thought this was an aggressive team. We've heard all week how aggressive ECU is. You're aggressive with 3 penalties a game? I don't believe that.
Controlled aggression.
Jeff wants to know if you believe UC is a highly penalized team.
I would concur, and I would also say that I don't care at all.
Dave is a guy that doesn't mind committing penalties in life or on the football field.
Well, you want to hear who some of the most highly penalized teams are this year?
I would love to.
Houston, UC, Alabama, and Utah State all have 8.7 penalties per game. Tennessee has 8.4 penalties per game. Let's see. And then if you want to go to the other end of the spectrum, Tulane is a very minimally penalized team. Georgia is in the top 10. Michigan is 12th. TCU is 16th. So I think this year is shaping up a year where bad teams get penalized, good teams don't, but that is certainly not always the case.
I think that's most years.
Like last year, the least penalized teams were Louisiana Monroe, Eastern Michigan, Army, Kansas, Iowa, Air Force, LSU, Washington, Navy, and UNLV. All those teams stunk.
Right.
Like those are some of the worst teams in the nation last year.
Right. Iowa was okay last year, weren't they?
They were okay, but I mean, you're talking about Kansas stunk, LSU stunk, Washington was terrible, Navy was terrible, UNLV was terrible.
I think it's like that most years.
It's a very much of just like, to me, like a mixed bag. Like you don't want, like, you obviously, I think UC has been overly undisciplined in your delay of games, your false starts, your things of that nature.
Yeah.
It's not like they're having a ton of like holding penalties or pass interference penalties where you're like, what are they teaching? Like, why can't they stop grabbing the receiver, or why can't the offensive lineman stop holding the defensive lineman?
Why is it every time on 2nd and 4 they hold on the obvious run play and it's 2nd and 14?
Right. It's very much of just, you know, penalties of aggression, penalties of stupidity, penalties of, you know, whatever you want to call it. But there are certain ones, especially, you know, that need not happen. If you're a good football team, if you're a disciplined football team, those penalties do not happen. You know, but like you look at Alabama this year, and they're uncharacteristically undisciplined, and it shows in their performances.
And they're having a lot of those penalties we just talked about.
Yeah,
holding, pass interference. You know, I have bad news.
That's not good.
I don't think I'll be able to hit up the tailgate.
Oh, okay. You're lost, man.
I would like to. I want to. But like a month ago, I agreed to fill in for Mo on Thursday and Friday. So
you forgot that there was a game?
No, again, we've talked about this. Future, like me dealing with future commitments just says to myself, I'll figure it out. So if you ask me to do something a month in advance, I will always say yes. And then when it gets here, I'm screwed. I've got to do Mo tomorrow and Friday. Tomorrow, basketball game. Friday, football game. But here's what you have to know as a fill-in guy for radio, right? When you start saying you know what they do?
Right, they start bumping you down the list because they
stop calling you. They just find somebody else to fill in. So they give me the dates. six, 4 to 6 weeks in advance, and I just say yes, no matter what is happening. And then if I have to make a change, then I'll let them know later that I have to make a change.
Yeah, you always want to be first on the list, and if that means
Right.
you have to
not sleep for a week, then that means you have to not sleep for a week. Is what it is. So I should get out of there on Friday, right around 6:00. And then by the time I get down there and park, like I imagine traffic is going to be a nightmare right around
6:30.
6:30. Yeah.
Yeah, getting downtown from Kenwood at 6:00. Yeah, that should be
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
And then getting onto campus and
Yeah. So I don't think I'm going to be able to make it this week.
But wait, I thought, because there's a bye week. So because usually on Fridays they have the Bengals show.
Right.
So because there's a bye week, it's a regular show.
So, and because there's like a bye week and there's not, like, Mo doesn't have to do all the normal Mo things, that Mo is going to be out of town for, Mo is, I've never seen anyone more elite than Mo at maximizing vacation days. Mo is the master of like the 4 and 5 day weekend. Like, I'm going to take 2 here and I get 1 there. Give me Saturday and Sunday. All of a sudden I got a week off and I only took 2 vacation days.
Yeah.
Like, Mo is elite at that. And this was an opportunity for him to do that. So he did. So yeah, I'm in tomorrow and Friday for Mo, which means luckily tomorrow's basketball game starts at 8. So I will have plenty of time to get down and get situated for the basketball game. But the football game on Friday is going to be a problem.
Yeah. Sounds like
a problem.
Well, I'll be in my usual spot, assuming the weather cooperates.
Yeah. Tell your mom and your aunt I'm sorry. Give them a hug. Tell them I love them.
My mom, I'm sure, is listening or will be tomorrow.
So your mom and your aunt, Monday.
What was Monday?
The first basketball game.
Oh, did you see them?
So I generally, there's a in the club.
Yes.
There's like a Pepsi remix machine.
Yes.
And I like getting a water with ice for the game.
As some do.
So I usually, right before tip-off, I sneak up into there and I get an ice water, and then I go back because you can cut right across to where the media seats are. So I'm at the machine. You got to hit the button for ice. Then you got to push the button for water.
Yes, I know how those work.
And the whole time I'm doing that, Chad, hey, Chad. And finally, like, the water fills up and I'm done, and I turn around and it's your mom and your aunt. And I'm like, what did you want me to do? I was holding the cup, fill it. Like, I couldn't let go of the button.
You're ignoring them.
That's what they thought.
I was like, instant, recognition.
It was my favorite moment of Monday night.
I'm glad they could be a part of it.
Do you know the menu?
No, I don't yet.
Okay.
I don't.
Sorry.
I did want to say before I know we're going to now move to basketball. I did want to say that with this, only 3 games left in the schedule, we started some scoreboard watching, and there's obviously a big one at the high school stadium in New Orleans this weekend, where UCF is taking on Tulane.
Yes.
Assuming, we're going to assume UC wins Friday night. It's basically down to like UCF wins.
Round robin.
Yeah, UCF wins. UC beats ECU or beats Tulane. You're probably looking at a return trip to Orlando. If you want a home game, you want Tulane to win, and then UC beat Tulane, and then there's a a possibility then that they would jump them and get the home game.
Correct.
Or, I mean, I could be totally wrong.
What does Tulane have next week?
Here's the thing, though. The home game, wouldn't the home game, though, then go to the winner of the head-to-head?
If it's a straight up tie, yes.
So, like, would that not be a straight up tie because, like, we beat them? That's their only.
So a 3-way tie creates tiebreaker situations.
Well, it wouldn't be a 3-way tie if they beat you.
I know. I'm just saying.
Because I know last year it was the rankings dictated the home field because UC and Houston didn't play.
Right.
So
all of these 3 teams will have played.
Right. But what I'm wondering is yes, if UC beat Tulane, does that supersede the fact that UC lost to UCF and Tulane would have beaten them?
UCF would have 2 losses.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, does that straight head-to-head UC over Tulane, is that all that matters? Because they both would have 1 loss.
If they are if there are only 2 teams with 1 loss, head-to-head breaks the tie.
Well, then there you go. Root for Tulane and then beat them on senior night, and you get another home conference championship game.
I think there's a lot of people at UC that would love to go back to the bounce house.
Why?
To prove that was a fluke.
Versus hosting another game?
No, but I mean, I think they just like it. UCF is like a thing, right? Like, I think there's people that want to go back and show them like we're better than you. Of course, you want to play at Nipper.
I'd rather them not even make it and wave to them saying that we're better than you while we hoist up the 3rd straight conference championship.
I do think there's like a sentiment of like I want to go back down there and like
I don't doubt that, but that's not the most practical way to win a conference championship.
Well, when do people in athletics ever like think practically on rivalry stuff?
I don't know.
That's not how brains work.
Probably not often.
So yeah, what you want is Tulane to come in undefeated in the conference, Cincinnati to have 1 loss, Cincinnati beats Tulane, UC gets the tiebreaker. The following week, they host Tulane for the AAC championship. And then at that point, I don't think there's any doubt that the winner would go to the NY6.
No, it seems like UC
to the
would
Cotton
be
Bowl to play Alabama.
UC would be 11-2.
Mm-hmm.
Tulane would be, 12-1. No, I don't.
Would they lost to UC? No, they would be 11-2.
Right,
because they lost to UC and then they lost to UC again.
No, I'm saying if they won the conference, you said that the AAC would get the bid, like they would have beaten UC in the conference championship.
Either way, I think if Tulane wins out until UC loses in the regular season and then wins the conference championship, they would get the New Year's Six.
Oh yeah.
And if UC wins out and doesn't lose the rest of the way,
the AAC is getting the bid.
Yes. And then the winner of the AAC championship would go to the Cotton Bowl
unless
and play Alabama.
Unless Tulane, UCF, and UC all drop their non-game against each other.
Right. All right. You want to talk some hoops?
Sure. Hello, Crypt Keeper.
Crypt Keeper, what's going on, my friend? That was fun.
It was fun.
I don't think it tells us much.
Nope, not one really bit.
But it does tell us, I think, this is a team that's more fun to watch than last year.
You know what it tells us?
What?
Louisville, not good.
Yeah, it tells us that. We knew that. We were aware of that.
I didn't realize they also lost to Lenore Ryan.
Yeah, they almost lost to Chaminade and lost to Lenore Ryan. Chris Mack did a hell of a job putting that team together.
Woof.
We've obviously done a bunch of shit, done a bunch of content on it. Give me your thoughts on watching the debut of UC basketball 2022-23.
My thoughts are offensively, score aside, opponent aside, obviously opponent plays a part in this, but I just thought
Yes.
overall the offense played with more pace and tempo. It flowed nicely. There was quality player movement. The ball did not stick when it was entered into the post or the corner, or after they ran a set that wasn't successful and kind of would reset and run something else. Like, none of that has to do with making shots. And I think all of those things at times were issues last year. And so we have one game to go off of. And so those are my kind of big picture things that I enjoyed outside of like guys' individual performances. And
Individually, Landers Nolly, go.
he seems like a good basketball player.
How about that, right?
Yes, I mean, I said, especially at the beginning of the game on the Twitter, I said, if they don't miss a shot all season, I feel good about them winning a lot of games.
What was it? At one point, they were shooting 83% from the field
And
and
100%.
70%, 100% from three. Yeah.
Yeah, they
100%
made like
from
their
three.
first four or something.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, you don't have to play a good team or a bad team to play with pace, play with tempo, move without the ball,
Make the extra pass.
move the ball itself,
Yeah.
don't drip, don't that it, you didn't see a bunch of like dribbling into double teams or like going baseline when you shouldn't go baseline and forcing some dumb pass after you've been put in jail. Offensively, I thought it was entertaining. It was fast paced. It was and again, Chaminade has something to do with that in the fact that like they didn't play a game trying to muck it up because they were outmanned. Like, they just kind of played their game too, and whatever happens.
I thought they made, even though they only shot like 35, 36%, I thought Chaminade made some pretty contested, like tough shots where there was a hand up in, like, it wasn't a hand that was going to be able to block the shot, but it was a hand that was in like good position to contest. They still made the shot. Good for them. Like, I judge a lot of that on like, was the defense where it was supposed to be?
Right. Like, you
And I
can't
thought,
predict the result, but
right.
if the play was designed the way you wanted it or whatever, then yeah.
Point guard, I thought Mike Adams Woods looked like I saw in the preseason, where he was more confident and more assertive finishing at the rim. He did a little bit better on his catch and shoot opportunities. He was a guy that looks to be ready to be like a senior, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And then I thought Rob Fennessy was really good behind him. If you're just going to get, if you tell me you've got the Julius, you've got Nolly, you've got JD, you've got John Newman, and your point guards are going to be solid, I feel pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think that plays into the fact of like the ball not sticking, is when you have options,
Right.
and that first you obviously run a set or a play or whatever for a specific person to take advantage of a situation, but when that isn't there, it seemed very natural, very easy for them to get to their next set, their next play, their next whatever, versus last year it was like, okay, we ran this play for DeJulius and they double teamed him, and now he passes it out because to get out of the double team, and now what do we do?
Right.
It's like, okay, we hold the ball, we wait for him to run.
We try to get it back to Dave.
We wait for him to run back over and get it from us, and we just run the same thing over again, and maybe it'll work the second time.
Right. There definitely was more action. There definitely was more movement. The one thing that's like, it's an insane stat. It's not repeatable. The fast break points, that's not something you can do against a good team. 38-2.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that again. I mean, I don't know. Cleveland State lost to who did they
Notre
lose
Dame
to?
University.
Oh yes, not the Fighting Irish.
No.
So, yeah. The
But it's college
non-con
basketball. Who the
schedule
hell knows?
outside of Maui and Xavier might not be.
Actually, I think. So the thought with Cleveland State was they've been right at the top of that conference for a long time. But Dennis Gates left.
Right. Did all the good players leave when Dennis Gates left?
Right. So, but when you schedule Cleveland State, you're still kind of there's a couple teams. I think Eastern is interesting, the way that they play. Northern has a good team.
NKU, yeah. I mean, they were predicted to finish first in the Horizon, right?
Yeah, like there's some good mid-majors on the schedule.
Right, where will continue to wear their ass out, but whatever.
There are some good mid-majors on the schedule where if you don't play well, you're going to be in trouble.
I actually want, I don't know if Aaron's on, but this is beside, does Aaron talk Wright State NKU shit?
I don't know. That'd be great.
Butler was more of our rival when I was there. NKU wasn't even in the conference.
Right, yet. But now they're Wright State pretty much owns them.
I mean, I have choice words for NKU, largely due to the previous regime, but I won't get into that.
William Wampler, baby.
Matthew tried to pay attention to Chaminade game. ESPN Plus made it hard.
I must have ESPN Plus.
Did you go through Hulu?
No, I was straight ESPN app on the smart TV. I didn't really have any problems.
A lot of the people said they used Hulu because if you bundle, you get Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus. They said they went through Hulu to watch the game, and they had a much easier experience. I only say that because most of these non-conference games are going to be on ESPN Plus.
Right.
So we need to all educate each other and help each other on the best way to watch the game.
The ESPN Plus game is being produced by UC students.
Yeah.
They have one of the premier in-house production company groups in the nation.
Matthew, thank you for the super sticker.
What does that mean?
He's subscribed.
Oh.
He's now a member. So thank you. Jason says he went through the Xbox on his TV and it was awful.
I had a couple buffering moments, but it sounded like that was not anywhere near the issue that others were having.
A lot of people got kicked 3-4 times, or they got booted out of the broadcast.
I have a weird thing with my ESPN Plus.
4 times.
That when I want to go rewatch,
not 1, not 2, not 3, 4.
There were people on Twitter saying up to 10.
Their customer service is also absolute dog shit.
Trash.
It's non-existent.
Right.
It can't be bad. It's NA.
I have this weird thing that happens when I want to rewatch a UC thing on my TV. It doesn't allow me. It says I'm not authenticated to watch this or whatever. But when I watch it on an iPad, it's fine. I don't understand what
stupid. Natalie said Hulu worked beautifully for her. I would go through Hulu. Everybody that used Hulu said it was awesome.
This is what the Pac-12 has to look forward to if they go all streaming.
We've talked about it at length, ad nauseum.
But anyway, that was your media rights segment on Bearcat Journal. How to navigate ESPN Plus.
They were fun. It was fun to watch.
It was.
Now, it was a brand of basketball that was fun to watch.
It feels repeatable, obviously in different levels based on competition.
I like the 2-2-1 press.
I think it's hard. I think it's harder to glean anything defensively because you're basically out manning them.
Yeah.
But again, it felt like the pressure was effective. Maybe not as effective as Coach Miller thought based on some calls that didn't go his way.
Well, I mean, when you get a 10-second call and the refs don't call it
twice,
you're gonna be upset.
No, I'm surprised he didn't get a T the second time. which
He
which I
wanted
which I would have been a big fan of.
to. He
Like
wanted to.
I'm a big fan of like a T in the first game. I think that sets a good tone for the rest of the year. But yeah, I thought they had active hands. You know, stuff like rebounding, and it's hard. You know, their tallest guy was like what 6'5", 6'7".
Yeah. Matthew, I can't give you a ton on the half court. They scored 38 of their 98 points.
There wasn't a ton in true half court sets. I mean,
I thought they moved the ball well.
Yeah.
I thought they made the extra pass. I thought they got the ball to the open look. I loved, and here's the part of the thing I loved the most that might not be relatable. Landers Nolly kept finding himself with like a 5'10" white kid. So they threw the ball to him in the mid post or the low post with a 5'10" white kid on it.
Oh, it's
and guess
relatable.
what? He did really good in those looks. In those opportunities with a 5'10" white kid on him, Landers Nolly was awesome.
It's relatable. I'm just not sure it's repeatable.
Right. But I do want to see more, like, if you're really truly playing him at the 3 and you can get him onto a 2 guard where he can get to the mid post and be able to play with his back to the basket, where he's an excellent passer. He's got that little baseline fadeaway. He can do a bunch of different things that make you uncomfortable. Like, I love that look in the half court offense. I thought it's something they did it some with Jaren. I always thought they should have done that more with Jaren.
Right.
And let him bully guys in the mid post.
They did it all the time with Troy.
Yeah. Because Troy had point guards. Like, right? Like, a little different when you're dealing with like 2s and 3s.
Sure.
But I love that from Landers. I think it was Aaron that was like, said something about Dave's step back, and it was like, no, Dave's step back was great last year. It's just that he had 3 guys draped all over him at every point in time.
Well, it loses its effect when you have to go to it so often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's like 3 or 4 times a game, DGJ is putting a guy in a blender and hitting a step back. When it has to happen 20 times a game.
Because they know you're not going to pass it to anybody else.
Right,
They can crowd you, and you have no room. Something like we didn't get to see. Like, we have no idea on offensive rebounding. They shot the ball very well, and they're also playing a team that they better get a lot of offensive rebounds against.
I thought it was good that they, like, as many shots as Chaminade missed, they only got 5 offensive rebounds. I think 2 of them were like knocked out of bounds, team rebounds. Things. So there was really only 3 true offensive rebounds in a game where Chaminade missed a lot of shots. Generally, a team like you can get outworked on the defensive glass, and that didn't happen. Chaminade was not able to like out hustle them to loose balls. So I thought that was a positive. I'm still, when you get to Arizona, Ohio State, San Diego State, like what the beginning of Maui is going to look like, I'm worried about rebounding still. But night 1, you can only cover what you saw.
No,
what I saw was a team that did what I expected them to do on the glass against an inferior opponent.
You can also beat an inferior opponent by whatever margin you want, while also not doing the things we talked about. Like,
right.
Yeah,
agreed.
You could very easily win that game by 20, 25 points.
Sure.
And be like, yeah, it's still, the offense still kind of looks stagnant. They're still not,
That was my take. My main takeaway last night on the video nightcap we did was that their largest margin of, lead in the game came with a minute left.
Right.
Which says to me they didn't just build a big lead at halftime and then gradually coast to the finish
or get sloppy and it goes
right. That's what I mean.
Goes down to like 17. And
right.
You're never in jeopardy of it being close, but you're just like playing with your food for
But,
the
yeah.
first 10 minutes of the second half.
And then we talk about, well, they were up by 25 at halftime and they won by 22. Instead, we get to say they're up by 25 at halftime. They won by 40. Like, that's what you want to see. We've seen too many times over the past 3 years, Dave, where they build these 10, 15, 17-point leads, and then these inferior opponents go on a 12-0 run.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's a 3-possession game, and you're like, what the shit just happened?
Yeah, it's a 5-point game with this under 7 timeout, and then it's then it's a game.
I'm done with that. I'm over that. Don't do that.
Did you hear
What
that?
you did yesterday.
Coach Miller, don't do that.
Or 2 days ago.
I'm sure he's listening.
I don't know what day it is. Huh. All right. I don't have a whole lot else. Do you?
I don't think
What
so.
are your thoughts on paying for a blue check? Is Dave Simone going to pay $8 for a blue check?
Right now, I would say that was highly unlikely.
Are you going to be upset if I pay $8 for Bearcat Journal to have a blue check?
Why would I care?
got mine.
You could literally do whatever you want with Bearcat Journal. I don't give a shit.
Well, there's this conversation that
why would I care?
They're going to suppress content creation if you don't pay the $8.
I mean, my personal page is not creating any content that I would feel is valued at $8 a month. To make sure that my wonderful tweets about whatever it is, food, Bengals, just being a general smart ass. I don't think any of those are worth me paying $8 a month for. So, you want to pay for the Bearcat Journal and knock your socks off.
I think what I'm probably going to have to do is pay for the Bearcat Journal one, and I'll decide on my own. I don't care enough about the blue check to like.
You don't tweet anything out, like anything that you tweet out UC wise. I just retweet.
Right, and anything that's like really newsy, I just put on the website because people pay for that.
Right. Like it's
I
not
don't
like
put that information on Twitter.
Well, it's not like like you tweet out. We tweet out stuff. You tweet out things from your personal account, but it's not like that's the only place you can find it. Right. It is also on the website.
Right.
So like I can retweet it, but people know that every nightcap is on the website. Every coach's press conference is on the web. Like the only place to view it is not just on, or you can also just start putting it on the YouTube page too.
Right. I'll probably pay for the Bearcat Journal account to be verified.
As long as you don't take that out of my, monthly.
No, $8 a month is coming out of your pay. But if it makes he's also talked about more money for content creation, so maybe that $8 makes you $100.
Maybe.
So then
I'll just start firing off content left and right on my personal one, and we'll see how weird we can get.
I love it. Is there anything to Paige not signing with USC today? I've had so much going on today that I don't know. I had like 5 hours of work, and then I came home. We went to Texas Roadhouse and had dinner, and then I came straight back here and started doing this. So I have not looked into any of that at all. I'll ask around. I didn't know that was a thing until we really basically started doing this. But why didn't Prater play versus Chaminade? I'll tell you this, Natalie. I watched Evan play basketball. He could have got some minutes against Chaminade. He might have been Chaminade's best player if he was playing for Chaminade. So maybe he could have hit the portal.
I don't know. That one dude with the alliteration last name that I couldn't pronounce. He was pretty good.
Is there anything to Fickle's daughter going to Indiana to play volleyball?
Huh? Like as far as what?
I'm just stirring the pot.
What?
I mean, if you're going to stir the pot, like
She committed
have
to
something.
She committed to Indiana.
Okay. Good for her.
Fickle to Indiana.
What would there be to it?
Fickle to Indiana.
You're fired.
No, you're just not allowed to come on. You just have to only produce.
Does anybody know a producer, like somebody that can do this a couple nights? Like, anyhow, I think we're good. I think we hit almost everything tonight. I think we had a good show. I think we will be back. We got to check next week. I think the NKU game is the 16th. I think we should be good. We got to keep our eyes open for like games that pop up on.
If the NKU game is the 16th, that's Wednesday.
Oh shit. Well, then we're gonna have to figure something out.
Yeah, yes, we will.
I mean, if you and Aaron want to do the show while I'm at the game, you're more than welcome.
I don't know.
No,
I don't need to do we don't have to preview Temple on a very specific day.
Right. PTP, like we'll work something out Thursday, I suppose, with the Rocket Truth guys. Maybe we just
have them go Wednesday.
Or maybe, I'm just saying, maybe next Thursday we do 7:30 and we hard 90 minutes out. And we're done at 9:00 when Rocket Truth starts.
It could be possible.
I know that's a dream for you, right? Hard 90 minutes out at 9:00. You get to go do your thing for a couple hours.
Yeah, I'm good at not even going 90 minutes on my own show that I said wasn't going to go longer than 90 minutes.
Right? All right, that's going to wrap it up. Good stuff tonight. Bearcats ECU on Friday, and then before that, you get UC and Cleveland State, and then Isaiah Collier in town on Saturday at Sycamore, 3:30. If you can make it, go. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it helps. I have no clue. Maybe he's already picked UC and he's already signed his LOI. I don't know. What I do know, the kid's going to be in Cincinnati, and there's maybe a chance that this impacts his decision. So if you're free and you got an hour or two, go to the game. And then a game on Sunday for basketball, and a bunch of content next week, and the train keeps on rolling. All right. He's Dave Simone. I'm Chad Brendel. We'll see you next time. This is the Holy Grail BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com.